I must say, this was probably the hardest part so far, just because I had to think a lot. Now that I kind of know what I'm doing, maybe the next one won't be as hard, but, I mean, how many coffins you got to build, right? Well, I might build a lot. I picked up some more lumber for the coffin build. Let's go inside and I'll tell you how I'm going to build it. It's time to build a coffin. I need to get one made for out here in the studio to use this year as part of the decorations. This year's theme for out here in the studio is that of an undertaker, embalmer, coffin maker. So this is actually a major piece that I need to get built. Now I do have another coffin that I made about 5 years ago, but this one I want to be just a little bit better. I went to the lumber store the other day to pick up some material for the build. Let me show you what I have. Here I have a 1x12 by 10. I have a couple furring strips, plus a 1x4 by 8, and I have a piece of plywood that's 4 by 8. It's the underlayment, the real thin stuff that I use for my projects when I'm building props. Very economical and easy to work with, and light. All total, I have about $60 invested in this so far. Now, this is going to be more material than I actually need. I'll have some leftover pieces which I can use for some other projects. So I'll probably be able to build a few other things also with this wood, some smaller items. So to begin with, let me give you a little rundown of what I'm going to do here. So this piece of wood right here is going to be the main back of the coffin. And by the way, I'm making a toe pincher coffin. So it's going to be kind of narrow at the top, wide at the shoulders, and then narrow at the bottom. And I'm probably going to make it probably about 6.5 feet long. The widest point will probably be about 18 inches. And it's probably going to be about 12 inches deep. So not a giant coffin, but nevertheless, I think it'll work and look nice. And you got to remember, back then, people were a lot smaller than they are now. I went ahead and made a straight line from one corner to the other corner on this 1x4 by 8. And what I'll do is I'll take my circular saw and I will cut a straight line, cut it in half. So I'll have two pieces. Each piece will be identical and each piece will be wide at the top and tapered at the bottom. And then I'll take both these pieces here and I will attach them to each side of the back of the coffin. And that will give me my tapered look for the toe pincher coffin. Out here at my deluxe wood shop, getting ready to rip this board in half. Don't forget your safety glasses. I'll be using my circular saw. I got that piece cut, so there's two pieces now and they're tapered. Next step is to actually cut the length of the main board, the 1x12 by 10. I'm going to make that about 6.5 feet long. Now, what I'm going to do on that is I'm going to bevel each end so that the ends, instead of being straight up like this, they'll be out like this. So I'm setting my saw to 15 degrees. Now when you do this, when you make the cuts, make sure that you position it so that your angles are like this. Not like this, not like this, but like this. If that's the way you want it, that's the way I'm doing it. That way the coffin will kind of go out this way on each end, give you a little extra headroom and feet room. So this is the angle that I will have on each end of the coffin. The bottom will go up like this, and the top will go out like that. Did the same thing on that end over there. I'm going to cut a couple of these scrap pieces of wood in half, so I'll have 4 pieces all together, and that's what I'm going to use to hold the back of the coffin together. I've got the boards cut for the back of the coffin. the next step is to fasten these two boards to the main board. What I'll do is I will put some wood glue on each board, and then I'll take this strapping that I cut and put these about every 18 inches or so to keep everything tight and secure. And then I'll go back and trim it. I've got the back of the coffin done. I glued these two pieces of wood on that you saw earlier that I cut, strengthened them, tied everything together with these boards here, and I have them every 18 inches, here, here, and down to the bottom. Now, as far as this rounded edge here, what I did was I took an old laundry basket that was oblong, that had rounded edges, and I stuck it on here, and at the very top, I traced around it, and that's what gave me the rounded edges. And then I used my jigsaw to cut. Now, I did make a few changes to the design. Remember how I told you I was going to make a bevel up here, 15 degree? Well, I did that, but it didn't work out right. I was having trouble kind of piecing everything together, so I scratched that plan. I went ahead and made a straight cut. So instead, I'm going to put the 15 degree angle on the board that goes up here at the end of the coffin. So what this is right here is just leftover pieces from this big piece of wood that I bought. So what I did was I took and made the 15 degree angle at the bottom and at the top. And then on the sides, I did a 45 degree angle. Let me show you how it fits together. So, 15 degree angle, 15 degree angle, 45, 45. So, the top piece will fit on here like so. And then on the top here, it also has a 15 degree angle, but it's cut the other way so that when I lay the lid on, the lid will lay flat. So let me nail this, glue it to the coffin bottom, and then we'll go from there. I must say, this was probably the hardest part so far, just because I had to think a lot. Now that I kind of know what I'm doing, maybe the next one won't be as hard, but, I mean, how many coffins you got to build, right? Well, I might build a lot. I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of winging it. So I had to do a lot of fitting. But I think it looks good so far. Now, let me show you something here. I added another piece here to support this. And this has the same 15 degree angle that the top and bottom has. So it fits snugly against this board. And then I took and nailed in this way into the board, and then underneath up into the board. Plus I added glue. So it's pretty solid and it shouldn't go anywhere. Once I did that, I took my electric sander and sanded all this around here to make it nice and smooth so I can get a tight fit. did the same thing on this side, and then I kind of took my sander and kind of sanded the whole thing just to clean it up a bit. So the next step is to do the same thing, do this down at the end. So let me do that, and then we can do the sides. By the way, if you're new to the channel, my name's Todd. I like Halloween, I like building props, I like creepy things. If you like those too, consider subscribing to the channel. If you're enjoying this video, give it a thumbs up. I attached the bottom piece to the coffin, and again I did a 15-degree cut on top, a 15-degree cut on the bottom, and the sides I did 5-degree. And I also added a piece of wood to the bottom like I did up here on the top for support. And let me flip it around, I'll show you if I can. Here's the little piece that I put in on the inside, and this will give support to the back piece here. And again, I've got nails going in to the side here and then up underneath, and then this is also glued in. Next step is to put the sides onto the coffin, and for that I'll be using underlayment. Same type of plywood underlayment that I use for a lot of my projects. Super thin stuff. Now the tough part's going to be up there at the top because it is rounded, so I'm going to have to bend the plywood to make it fit, and there's a special way I'm going to do that, and I'll show you when I get ready to do it. Now I'm also going to use a couple of these furring strips to put on the inside top of the coffin, and I'll have to bend these also, and this will give the top of the coffin some support. Took a little break, but I'm back. I just noticed that the battery of my clock died, so it lasted 10 months. Got to get that replaced. I miss it. So anyways, I got the side of this board cut that goes on the coffin. The depth is about 11.5 inches by about 6.5 foot. Now, this was another tricky part. Let me show you. Here I made what they call kerfing, where you cut little like lines in the wood there so that it will bend. And that's key. That's what you need to do. So by doing that, this will easily bend to the contour that I have here. You just got to be careful when you do it because you don't want to cut too deep, otherwise you'll cut through it. And then when I get done, after I get it nailed on, glued on, I'll probably take some wood filler and fill it all in. So this side piece will go in like so. Should be a tighter fit. Then I'll have to trim the ends on both ends of the coffin. That's the next step, but it's getting kind of late. It's around 8 o'clock, and I woke up this morning, I don't know, around 6:30. I haven't been out here a whole day doing this, but I've been out here quite a bit. I think I'm going to call it a day and pick this back up tomorrow and hopefully get it done. I've got both of the side panels to the coffin cut now, and they are ready to attach to the coffin. But before I do that, I wanted to show you the front of the coffin here so you can see how it's going to fit together and kind of see the work I had to do to make sure it's all going to look good. Now, once I did all my cutting with the jigsaw and my circular saw to get the shape I wanted, I went back with the sander and a wood file and cleaned everything up and kind of took some more wood off, rounded it off, made it nice and smooth so everything would fit tight together. And again, this was probably the hardest part so far of the build. I've got both side pieces of the coffin on. Now, what I did was I left each side kind of long so they overhang on the front like it does here and then also on the back. Because I wasn't sure exactly how long of a piece I needed and I'd rather be long than short. So the plan now is, as you can see, these overhang. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my circular saw and I'm going to cut the ends off. Now, when I get done cutting them, there'll probably be just a little bit hanging off still. And then what I'll do is I'll take my sander, my electric sander, and I'll just sand it smooth to make it flush with the boards here. And then I'll do the same thing on the other end of the coffin. I'll show you what the inside looks like. It's not very pretty, but I will clean it up. This is what the inside looks like where I attached the wood to the front, to the top of the coffin. And as you can see, there's a lot of little nails sticking out on each side. What I will do is I will go through and kind of trim those nails up. And then if you look also at the top here, it's a little uneven, but again, I'll just take my sander and kind of clean that up and make it all nice and smooth. This is what the bottom end of the coffin looks like, and again, notice how I left the sides a little bit long. So what I'll do is I'll take my saw and trim this off as close as I can, and then I'll take my sander and sand it all nice and smooth. Well, here's a great view of the coffin. The front, how it's rounded, and then at the back, and then how each end is tapered. Now, since this coffin will be used as a prop from year to year for Halloween, and whatever else I decide to use it for, it's going to take a lot of abuse. So I need to strengthen up the walls and the top of the coffin so that it will last longer. Now, how I plan on doing that is this. At the top, I'm going to take a piece of wood and I'm going to cut it so that it fits inside the top here. And what that will allow me to do is nail these sides to the piece of wood, and it'll kind of strengthen this. Because there's not a lot holding this board on here in the front. By putting this piece on inside here, it'll kind of stiffen it up and give it more support. And I just went ahead and traced the outline here, and I'll cut this with my jigsaw, slide it in here, and nail it. Now, on the sides of the coffin, each side, I've got furring strips that I'm going to cut and place on the inside of each side of the coffin. And this will stiffen the walls up for me quite considerably. Now, because I've got a little bit of a curve here, I'm going to have to take and make some kerfing in this board right here. Basically, I'm going to have to take and make little cut marks like I did for the side walls here, so this will bend ever so slightly. Now, because I'm using this piece of wood up here towards the top as like a header, this is going to take most of the angle, and you can see I'm going to cut that with my jigsaw. So I won't have to bend this too much. It's time to wrap this video up. Just got done sanding the entire coffin. I had gone through and used wood filler for the nail holes and kind of fill in any imperfections. And then also up here where I did the kerfing, I went ahead and put some of this quick wood in here, which is used for repairing damaged wood. It's a little bit more harder and more structural than regular wood filler, because I had taken a lot of wood out here to make this bin, so I wanted to make sure that was nice and strong. So I've got the whole thing sanded. Now I'm not sure if I'm going to make a lid or not. The way I'm going to have it displayed, I'm not going to use a lid, so as of right now I'm not making a lid. As far as staining it or painting it or leaving it natural, haven't made my mind up yet. Originally I thought about maybe painting it black with some gold trim on it, maybe. Not sure. Gold or white trim. That's to be determined. If I do something like that, I'll make a video of it and show you. But overall, I'm very happy with the build. I think this is probably my 4th coffin that I've made, and by far this is probably the toughest one I did. And that's basically because I have more angles in it, and I also have this rounded top. But it's also the best one I ever built. So keep that in mind. If you're going to build a coffin, the more angles you have that are non-90 degree and any round corners that you put into it, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But give it a try. And if you can't find the wood to do it, or you don't have the power tools, try cardboard. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below there and I'll try to answer it for you. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like these types of videos, consider subscribing to the channel. Until then, I'll talk to you later.